So, in exactly the same way as with Brexit itself, we didn't know whether or not we were heading for triumph or calamity. I guess with the reforms that are proposed and the reforms that are due to kick in 2024, so far as British agricultural policy is concerned, we don't yet know or yet have any idea what the impacts of those policies are going to be. And to try and clue people into exactly how profound a change this is going to be, we've been in the Common Agricultural Policy since 1962. So 2022 now, obviously, that's 60 years of having been in the same agricultural system or system of subsidies and the sponsorship of large scale agriculture in Europe. During that same time period, the population of Europe has more than doubled. So in that time period from 1962 till now, we have this huge expansion of our agricultural capabilities and our technical capabilities and everything else that feeds into the production of enough food for 774 million people. So we've needed this system of policies, which came along, as I said, in the early 60s, was proposed in the Treaty of Rome in 1957, or was it 56, whatever it was. This came along to replace a sort of interim system of quotas and tariffs placed on the, the amount of agricultural produce produced in Europe. And this system of quotas and tariffs caused a lot of people to be upset. They said we should be producing absolutely as much food as we possibly can, and don't like the idea of limiting it and not being competitive with other economies, other agricultural economies such as North America. And what we're headed into now is really rather an unusual period of our history, since now the government is going to have to start finding tax revenues from somewhere in order to subsidize agriculture. I guess in accordance with the way that the Common Agricultural Policy would have done. However, I've also read the Agriculture Bill that's now turned into the Agriculture Act that sets out how this funding will be distributed and what the criteria for the system of loans and grants that's going to replace the Common Agricultural Policy will be based on. And what it is based on is things like rewilding, planting trees, buffer strips for fields, and so on and so forth. All the stuff that's kind of in the environmental land management or entry level or high level stewardship schemes that we have at the moment. So, I mean, it's an interesting time for farming in the UK, but on the one level, I don't know if this entails us falling off the edge of a cliff or if this is going to be something triumphant and wonderful or better. And I think it's good to have a great deal of suspicion for people offering quick fixes or magic bullet solutions to problems such as these, which are by their nature highly complicated and nuanced. And there's an awful lot of subtlety involved in this sort of thing. And people like to say, oh, we only produce 49% of our food in the United Kingdom. And we import the majority of the food we consume here. However, those imports, the 49% is not worth discounting. Still, we can't really afford to lower our production of food. We've got rising food prices as it is currently, since energy prices are increasing. So the input costs of every process along the production line, from field to processing plant to supermarket to table, that's getting more expensive because of the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is going to massively affect grain prices, for one thing. It's going to affect the prices of numerous potatoes and various other things as well. Also, produced in vast quantities in Ukraine. So we don't know how that's going to play into the situation. We don't know how long that war in Ukraine is going to last. Will it be over before the end of the year? Wars like this generally don't tend to end like after a year or within a year. So, I mean, and have we really felt the full impact of this yet? Is the summer, is the strain on our natural resources and on our economy really all that profound quite yet? It's difficult, and now have this into the mix. So really, I mean, in terms of the sudden geopolitical upset that we have now in Europe's largest agricultural economy, Ukraine, we can't really afford in Britain to lower our productivity for any reason. And I know, like a lot of people, like when it comes to agricultural policy and rural policy, you're sort of like, no, this is really, really boring stuff. This is like as dreary as tax legislation. But in a sense, like this underpins the most important factor in our lives, our food supplies, and like we can't like not have enough food. Honestly, that would not be pretty. But then other people say, "Oh, we waste so much food. We should stop doing, so much of that." It's like, of course we should. Of course, something needs to be done about that. But like, where's the political and public will associated with trying to accomplish that? And yeah, these measures aimed at sort of rewilding parts of the countryside, and you get like more money for buffer strips and things in fields. I do get that it comes from a great place in terms of environmentalism and sustainability and all this good stuff, but how well attuned is it to the changing facts of global economics and global geopolitics, particularly in the sphere of Europe? Is it quite right to be sponsoring those sorts of things right now, given this war in this um, agrarian economy, Ukraine, that's capable of feeding 600 million people with its food exports? I don't know. I don't know if it's such a brilliant idea necessarily to be going down these sorts of paths. And the other thing is the politicians that we have in power. Um, so they've had like, varying attitudes, I think, to sort of country rural concerns. Um, the Tory party um, attitude has seemed to have always been just like, so far as possible, just like leave it alone, and they can rely on their EU subsidies. And the Labour Party, I think, has been like always like trying to push reform there, and maybe not always to the greatest effect. And it seems to have sort of like upset voters in the countryside, since the majority of them vote Tory. Or like, yeah, rural areas are big Tory hotspots for whatever constellation of factors that it is. And I don't know who I like. Neither Labour or Conservative, like I don't think have really helped the countryside so much. The Conservatives within like countryside circles are sort of thought to be the party of the countryside, but I don't think they fucking are at all. And mostly because of Thatcher deregulating the housing market, and was it all the sort of mortgages of smaller dairy farms going up suddenly and then getting bought out by big conglomerates, going out of business? Mm. Didn't all that sort of occur under Thatcher when sort of the standard size of dairy farm was about 60 or 70 cows in Britain, just like it is in France now? Sort of that all imploded when Reaganomics hit the UK and smaller farmers started selling up. And now we have sort of dairy farms, average size about 160 cows. And very often sort of 300, 400, 500 or 600 or whatever, or 1,000 cows. And yeah, so the size of dairy farms exploded. And yeah, people in the countryside still vote Tory. So yeah, this could be, if this isn't managed well, this could be a real problem. This could be a massive, massive, massive problem if it's not done correctly. if you know, funding's going in the wrong place, and particularly if anyone seeks to corporatize the countryside more than it already is, I think, and form bigger conglomerates of larger collections of farms, make agriculture yet more intensive. I don't know, but which side would seek to do that? Would it be the Tories out to make a quick buck? Would it be the Labour Party out of some misplaced kind of social justice initiative, or turning everything into a cooperative or whatnot? Bringing collectivization more or less. And I think the CAP was sort of introduced by the EU to sort of prevent any country with a socialist kind of tinge to it, or a socialist contingent to it, making these radical top-down changes to a system of agriculture like they were doing at the time in the Soviet Union, with Lysenko, or that was in recent history at that point. And that obviously proved to be a disaster. So, like, okay, we're going to rein these Western liberal democracies in because they're liberal democracies. They have socialist parties who, like, probably are just itching to try something like that, Lysenkoism. They just have a common agriculture policy that they're all bound into under the Treaty of Rome. I'll have none of that here. So, like, I don't like the idea of the Labour Party meddling in agriculture possibly as much as they'd like to in the context of a post-Brexit Britain. Then again, do I entirely trust the Conservative Party not to royally fuck the countryside over with a sort of anarcho-capitalist model? Like, either way, no, I don't. I think I trust the Greens more than either of them. But even then, I don't know. So it's like we're walking off the edge of a cliff, or like we're walking into a dark thicket. It's a mystery. Anything could happen. That's only 2 years away. It's in 2024 when I think we're going to start seeing the real impact of Brexit. And we think we've got away with it, haven't we? I don't think we quite have got away with it. I think we're going to see something a bit more. Either way, it'll be interesting, but perhaps not in a good way.